Welcome to the program Law and Order, a program where we discuss legal issues and giving solutions in a legal environment for you all to survive without any hassle. Ladies and gentlemen, in a series of programs, we were discussing about many legal scenarios that you are dealing simply in your ordinary life. So today we are going to focus about minor offences, which is with regard to the criminal aspect of law. And to do the honours with us, we do have Mr. Jagat Abanayaka, attorney at law, in our studios. Thank you very much, sir, for joining with us and taking part in this program.
It's a pleasure.
Right. Okay. So we are to discuss minor offences. With regard to many other offences, they also play an important role. So can you briefly describe what minor offences are?
Well, there are different terminologies. There are different classifications of offences. In the criminal procedure, you find bailable offences and non-bailable offences, one classification.
Right.
Then there is cognizable offences and non-cognizable offences. Then there is summary offences, non-summary offences, and directly indictable offences.
Right.
These are some of the classifications that, but you don't find something like minor offences, but it is very much in the practice of the lawyers and also in the practice of the police officers. It is them that this term has been, introduced. Yes, minor offences seems to me to be offences which are usually categorized under summary offences. Summary offences are the offences which are heard by the magistrate court, which can be heard by the magistrate court and conclude.
Right.
So some of the examples can be offences against property, offences against, some offences against human body, for example, hurt, the grievous hurt, and some offences against property like trespass, then cheating or misappropriation or theft or even robbery. Such offences are usually categorized as minor offences. Now if you go to police station, you will see there are different units. Minor offences are handled by different units.
Right.
In a criminal unit, for example, you find different unit for traffic offences, then different unit for criminal investigation, then different unit for special investigations. There is also a unit which is called MO branch, which is which the police have termed. There is basically it's not legal, but basically it is more administrative arrangement. There is a unit called minor offences unit, which handles the minor offences as they call it.
Right. Okay. So simply you talk about many offences, theft, sometimes robbery, misappropriations, and all those things. And we'll just later on little bit talk about those things in detail as well. Simply when it comes to the offences which are not a major classification but categorized as minor offences, if I committed a minor offence or I'm dealing with someone committing a minor offence, I'm simply neglecting that. And later on it becomes like complex, sometimes like someone said me something and it's like a defamation for me. I neglected it, and later on he's continuing with defamation, and sometimes he might hurt me. So now I'm going to initiate a complaint. So neglecting certain offences at their minor stage, will it become a burden later on?
Yes, I suppose it is, because there is a term, there is a norm actually in law that that if you are not interested in your rights, nobody else will.
Right.
The court always, when it comes to a trial, for example, spontaneity is one of the most important things that we are looking at when we are analyzing or when we are considering evidence, whether it has been spontaneous. The witness has given given his statement or whatever without delay. It is important, but that doesn't mean that you can't wait until something serious happens to you. You can ignore. You can. I would like to use the word ignore rather than neglect.
Right.
You can ignore minor harassments which we face on day-to-day basis. You can ignore them, but if it continues to harass you, you can go to a police station and lodge a complaint.
Right.
That is, there's no barring as such for a criminal offence. There is no bar.
Right.
They say 30 years. For some offences they say 20 years.
It's like the prescription period.
Something like that, but there is
Not exactly.
there's no such hard and fast rule about criminal offences. Since you mentioned defamation, defamation has been brought out from the criminal arena.
Right.
For some time now. So we don't talk about criminal defamation unless in a case of cheating. We don't talk about that.
Talk about that. Right. Okay. So let's focus about theft and sometimes losing our property or someone taking our property away. Can you explain the theft in a legal manner?
Yeah, there are. It's interesting. What we have in our mind, theft, stealing, so to speak, is something different from the legal point of view. Theft is, we think theft, for example, common man thinks that theft is committed against the ownership of some property. If you own something, if somebody has removed it from your ownership, that is theft. That is theft too. But it is not something against ownership. When you describe the theft, it was earlier referred to as larceny. But the theft that we discuss in penal code, for example, is something different. It is committed against the possession. Now, if you are in possession or in domain of some property, even the owner cannot come and steal that from your domain.
Right.
Then it becomes theft.
If something is like, for an example, sir, you do have 2 books with you.
Yes.
That is your ownership.
Yes.
Now you are transferring that to me. That is in my possession.
Yes.
Even you can't obtain that thing from me without my
your consent.
That is theft. So what are the basic elements of theft?
For theft, the property has to be a movable property.
Right.
You can't, for example, steal a plot of land. But the movability can occur at the later stage of the act. For example, let's see a coconut tree, which is not movable. But once it is cut down, it becomes a movable property. So you can steal a coconut tree from a possession of a man. Right. So firstly, it has to be a movable property.
Even can be converted to a movable property.
Can be converted to a movable property. Then it has to be removed from one place to another. And it has to be removed from a possession of somebody.
Right.
So if these things are complete, and of course there should be a mental element that is called dishonesty.
Right.
If you move that dishonestly without the consent of the person who possesses that item, you are committing theft.
So simply we have a famous case, someone says that something like he has stolen electricity. That means like from the general line that the electricity is distributed, I'm just putting a wire and obtaining electricity. Is it theft or not?
It is theft under, there's a special act for this. Earlier it was electrical department. Later it was turned out to be an electrical board act.
Right.
And there it is an offence. It is not just it does not categorize under theft. It is an offence. It's an offence. Original that what I told you is that it has to be a movable property, and electricity not being a movable property, not being a
tangible
property of any in a tangible explanation. Still it has made an offence under that act.
Right. And so sometimes we come across fixtures which are permanently or something fixed to a property. What about the theft with fixtures?
Once the fixture is severed from the whatever the picture has been made to stay, it becomes a movable property. For example, let's say we have a chained property to chain to a wall or something. Right. Once that chain is broken, that property becomes a movable property. That can be removed. Major thing in the act is you have to remove it. You have to remove it from one place to other.
Right. And for example, sir, when it comes to a computer, I've stored some documents in it. Now one person comes to my computer, he is going to move that files to one of his storage drives, for example a pen drive or a flash drive. So he is taking that thing. Is that shifting theft?
No, it is not theft under penal code.
Right.
It can be an offense. It is an offense. It can be an offense under maybe Electronic Offences Act. Maybe intellectual property. It can be an offense, but not considered theft. It is not theft.
Right. And when it comes to moving deeper, what is criminal misappropriation of property? How it differs from theft?
Very interesting, because criminal misappropriation, there's no definition in the penal code.
Yes.
Interestingly, it refers, the term is used to refer to the punishment, the sentence, and also to refer to other offences like criminal breach of trust. You use misappropriation, but there are certain illustrations in the penal code.
The penal code itself.
Yes. And according to the illustration, it seems to me to be the misappropriation is something where you get the domain of a property, movable property again.
Right.
It may be without the consent or without the knowledge of the possessor, if there's a possession.
Right.
And you use it for the benefit of your whatever your benefit. This domain can also be given to you by the owner of the item as well.
Right.
So if you, for example, if you picked up a wallet lying on the road, which is in nobody's possession, if you have not taken steps to find the owner, reasonable steps to find the owner, or if you are not inquired around whoever is around you to see whether it belongs to somebody around you, then if you use it, if you use the money in the wallet, for example, for your purposes, you may commit the offence of misappropriation.
Right.
There's no possession.
No possession.
But still, the offence is there.
Offence is there. So it might be criminal misappropriation, criminal breach of trust, whatever it is. It's described under the illustrations of the penal. Illustrations means, ladies and gentlemen, that is mentioned under the penal code, which states the offences, criminal offences rather. And sir, like all those things, are they same punishable under the common thing, theft?
No, theft is different.
Right.
But when it comes to punishments, when it comes to sentences, more or less they are the same. It can be heard in the magistrate court, and magistrate court can punish, for example, for theft 2 years imprisonment or 3 years imprisonment, depending on the nature of the theft.
Right.
Like that. The punish. It is not a good way to recognize offences under criteria of punishment.
Right.
You understand?
Yes.
So it is always offences are categorized in penal code under different titles. For example, this area, this theft and misappropriation or criminal breach of trust, they come under offences against property.
Offences against property.
Yes.
And simply these days we deal with certain movable properties. For example, we use bicycles to travel here and there, and we see numerous posts circulating on social media that the bicycles are being stolen, or sometimes it's misplaced or something like that. A theft might be committed. So how, if myself is the owner or someone is the owner of that particular property, how can he proceed with?
He has to lodge a complaint in the correct constabulary of police. Suppose it was stolen at the Rupavahini Corporation ground.
Right.
Then it comes under, I think it comes under Kurunduwatta police station.
Garden police station.
He has to lodge a complaint at the police station, which is then the police will start investigating into it. But I'll have to say this: these days people leave their property sometimes during the night.
Unattended.
Unattended. Then if somebody comes and steals it, unless there is some evidence to show that, like for example now we have CCTV footage, something like that, and recognize the offense when it is committed, it is very difficult for even for the police officers to investigate and find the offender. It is difficult. Today I will leave my motorcycle at a line of fuel, and tomorrow it will be lost. And most probably I'll find it at Panchikawat or somewhere broken into parts,
pieces,
you know.
Yes.
So it is very difficult then to find out the thing that has been stolen. Yeah. So it is very prudent these days to attend to that. Wherever you park it, you park it properly and get somebody to attend to it. It is much more easier to avoid than to later investigate and find out the culprit. You know.
And the lodging a police complaint is the one thing that we can do. Simply, if I've heard, and many people are circulating this information through social media, because social media has been prominent these days. And for example, there is a building or rather a shop, for example, think a supermarket, one of an unattended property for a short period of time is been stolen, and I'm sure, or rather the owner of the property is sure, that the CCTV footages recorded in that particular business place might capture the theft. So I'm inquiring the manager or the other person, can you show me the CCTV footages? Can they show me, or can I ask them ethically to show that?
They have an ethical duty to show me.
Right.
Yeah. But there's no such a rule in our provisions of law. Only the police can come and go into the details of those footage. But usually, I think most people they allow the victim to go through their footage and see whether there is anything recorded in that. It is social responsibility rather than a rule and regulation.
So when it comes to the ordinary practice, what we have experienced, and the rumors and the news items mediating in social media, we have seen that some places they neglect to offer the entry to that particular CCTV recorded rooms, saying that no, you can't enter. But we should be aware, and people who are watching this program, there is a social responsibility, as Mr. Jagatha Benayaka said, like we have to help each other in this endeavor in order to find those things. So simply, sir, lodging a police complaint or rather anything with regard to that, the theft is so. When it comes to a robbery or something like a grievous hurt to somebody, rather than a police complaint, what are the precautions that we can take?
Precautions?
Yes, as in?
I think precautions against robbery is precious little.
Yes.
Suppose, like what I can say is avoid lonely roads at lonely times, avoid carrying important things about you when you are traveling, or when you are walking down a lonely alley. Right. Those are the precautions that you can take. But unlike in theft, you don't see the property being moved away from your possession.
Yes.
On most occasions.
You might have experience with your vast experience in handling many cases.
And theft becomes robbery if it happens when you are present. Then you are aware. Suppose you walk down a street in the dead of the night, and you are all alone, and somebody jumped into the street and stopped you. And then while he is harassing you, he managed to put his hand into your pocket and take your wallet. You may have not noticed it. But he is present there. You understand? Then he would run away, and then only you realize that your purse has been lost. That becomes robbery. robbery, the basis of that robbery is theft.
Theft.
You understand?
Right. So rather that we advise with the program Law and Order, we ensure the safety and any measures that you can take in order to prevent such mistakes being done. So when it comes to theft and robbery, we learned certain other things, the differences and those things. If someone is hurting, if there is a medical concern, we are admitted to the hospital.
Yes.
And so sometimes in certain cases, if the damage is suspicious for the doctor, he seek the intervention of the police with regard to that, and sometimes they being avoided from treating those things as well. So when it comes to hurt like things, physical injury, sometimes there might be mental injuries also. Concerning physical injuries, how can you comment on that with your experience?
Yeah, this is it is like this. A doctor cannot deny treating a person, whoever he is, he may be the culprit.
Yes.
I don't think, it is not my area, but I don't think that doctor can deny treating him in a hospital or whatever, whatever the place he practices. But if it is, if the hurt is committed in an attempt, let's say on a robbery or even in your life, then it is much better that that person is entered into a hospital rather than to a private nursing home or anything.
Right.
And in the hospital there's always a police post, and then this the patient or the person who is admitting the patient to the hospital will have to go through all the formalities of this police post. Then he can say what had happened to him to the police officer who is attending to his legal requirements. He can say that, and when he can also demand a medical report. And in the report there's a small area where he can enter his passage of inconvenience, so how he met about his injuries.
Scenario.
Yes,
right. So dealing with that police and hospital is like that. And so we have moving a little bit apart from another episode, we'll be continuing with how to proceed with a legal case. And in this thing, these days normally we deal with social media issues, and people sometimes publish some other one's personal details on social media. What sort of actions that they can take?
I think there are various authorities who can look into these complaints.
Right.
Apart from the police, CID, at CID there is a special unit for this type of offences. You can always complain to CID. Apart from that, if they are really harassing you, and you can stop them by complaining to the what you call Telecommunication Regulation Commission, where they have where they have a unit to look into that. You can complain to that also. But CID would be the best place to being a criminal lawyer. I know that they are very capable of, the unit is under very capable officers. They are very capable of hunting down the offenders and bring them to the books when their investigations are over. So it is always prudent for you to complain to the CID.
Right, yes. So we were dealing with minor offences and certain other disciplines to make you enlightened about what minor offences are, certain precautions especially that you can take amidst this type of a situation, and even how to deal with such things, the legality, the non-legality, lodging a police complaint, and so on and so forth. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wind up today's episode thanking Mr. Jagat Abenayaka, attorney at law, a thorough gentleman with regard to the criminal law. Thank you very much, sir, for joining with us. And this is the program Law and Order. Stay tuned with many programs to ensure that you know everything with regard to law. Thank you very much. Have a pleasant day.